You know, scaredy cats can be a real challenge. You can love them from a distance, but don't bother trying to catch them. Actually, if you're going to interact, they need to be lured, and it's going to take a lot of patience and empathy too. You can't chase them down, and if you do, they get really scared. Is anybody here? Well, hello, Gaston. I have a story about Gaston, and I have a picture of him when he was just a baby when we found him. Oh, thank you very much, Carolyn. Look at these little guys. So if you, here you go, Tony T. This way, baby. No competing cats here. Thank you. Now, let's not have any of that naughty behavior. You think my cats are perfect because I'm a veterinary behaviorist? Think again. They are a management challenge sometimes. Very often they stay out of each other's way. And actually, this little guy Gaston here, he's about 7 years old, 7.5 right now, and Tony is 14. Well, Tony was the only cat in the household, and my younger son and I were taking this girl here, Miss America, on the irrigation ditch near our house here in the North Valley of Albuquerque. This is what we call a semi-rural area. It's not really suburban. There are cattle and ducks in the irrigation ditch and geese and horses and, you know, all that. People with backyard fowl, all that business. We had a bunch of owls camp out on our balcony off our upstairs bedroom one year. And we've had these Mexican running ducks. Thank you, Carolyn. Well, Tony T, what the heck are you doing? He's like, thank you. You're getting your paws all stuck in things. I have too much stuff on my desk here. But anyway, I have some things I want to show you. Oh, Richard. Oh, and Isabella. Wonderful. Thank you. We love your perfect cats. Yeah, perfect, right? Anyway, I'm glad you guys can hear me. And by the way, everybody else who's coming, please let me know you're here and tell me where you're from if we've never met. So anyway, my son and I were walking Miss America here in the irrigation ditch. Oh, Martha, great to see you. I'm delighted. So we're walking our dog in the irrigation ditch, and the ditch is kind of down. It's got an embankment. And the reason for that is it comes off the Rio Grande, which is parallel with the irrigation ditch, and big trees, cottonwoods and stuff. It's actually a lovely area. Well, you have irrigation because, you know, people are raising alfalfa and other crops. So anyway, we're walking along with our dog, minding our own business, and then we hear in the distance this little meow, meow. Well, it had just rained, and we'd just gone out there after the rain, and you know, it's that little meow of a young kitten, and we look over, and we see this joker right here. Let me show you what he looked like at the time, because of course, with him crying like that, we weren't going to like walk away and leave him there. He would have been a coyote snack in no time at all. So we picked him up and carried him home, and we took this picture of him. Oh, I'm going to have to turn the camera around. There we go. This is with him playing with a cat toy in our rec room. Just a little fuzzy guy, and if you look very carefully at the inside corner of his right eye, you'll see a discharge. You know, he wasn't in the best of shape. And there are some folks in that area, not far from our house, who they have a lot of cats. And so chances are they might have had a litter of kittens. And Gaston here got loose. And of course, the first thing we tried to do was to, you know, find his home. And we rattled gates and knocked on doors and took him home, and then put a sign out with my private cell phone number, hoping that his family would call. Well, it turns out that his family was ours, and so here he is 7.5 years later. Well, he's a really nice cat, and he called out to us. It was clearly, you know, he was worried. He was crawling down this embankment to get a drink of water from the ditch. You know, he would not have done well had we not taken him home. Well, boy, I'll tell you what, any sound at all scares the daylights out of this little guy. He's bold and he's assertive, and he moved into our house as probably about a 7, maybe 8-week-old kitten. You know, he barges in on Tony, who, you know, was already about 7 years old, an established cat in the household. And Tony was not raised in a multi-cat household, and so he, you know, didn't really want this new guy. And that's the thing with cats. If you have an established cat, especially one that's over 2 or 3, they sometimes hate the guts of anybody who moves in. And that alien creature and the established cat can have a real problem. Now, if the established cat has a high status, assertive, maybe even pushy personality, then the new guy can be intimidated and can get chased around and treated like, well, like prey. Well, the opposite has actually happened at our house to some degree. Gaston comes in, and just because of the way he is genetically programmed, he is a high status, well, he can be a little pushy. And he wasn't very old before he started kind of thrashing Tony around a little bit. So we've had to keep them apart a lot of times. We have a big yard, and they go out in our yard and come back in, so they have opportunities to get away from each other. And, oh, look, Martha. Richard, thank you for coming as well. And Cindy, I'm so glad to see you. You make it every time, and we appreciate that very much. So anyway, these two guys, you know, it's not a perfect thing. When people are going to have more than one cat, it's best to adopt them when they're at about the same age, and younger is better. In fact, sometimes the very best pairs of cats were litter mates. Nonetheless, these two guys, we manage them. Well, there's Tony again. More treats. Good boy, Tony. Okay, so anyway, here's the story with Gaston. He is a scared cat. And when we first got him, I was trying to manage him and give him brief exposures to Tony so that they would get accustomed to each other. Well, I made a nice little corner for him, very comfortable with food and water and a litter and a nice comfy bed. And I had him in the garage some of the time and brought him inside some of the time. And, you know, we did a very careful job while I was trying to find his real home, not knowing that it was already found. And but when we raised the garage door, poor guy just freaked out. And sounds have been a problem for him. And in fact, if you move too quickly, he'll startle. But he doesn't hide under the bed. He does not have a severe case of fear. But there are some cats who do. And so again, if you have a cat or you've known a cat like that, put it in the comment line and give me some details, because it can be a big, big problem. The sensitive period during the development of the young feline brain for being exposed to pretty much anything that might be a factor in their life, people, other pets, is age 2 to 7 weeks. That's a pretty short window of time, and it's pretty young. So when people have a litter of kittens, they really have an obligation, although so few people know this, to expose them to all manner of other kinds of pets, cats, kittens, dogs, children, adults, people of different races if possible, and sizes, and men with beards, and all these different things that they might experience. And if they get gentle exposure to this kind of variety when they're youngsters, even if they're genetically programmed for fear, they tend to do okay. So is Gaston's issue because he didn't have much exposure to people when he was a kitten? I suspect that was probably part of it. But he's done fine at our house, but he's always got that scaredy cat thing, which has nothing to do with this assertive personality that he has. Carolyn, do we have any more? Yeah, maybe you could reload our feeders.
Yeah, there's some kibbles up there.
They just haven't found them.
No.
All right, well, anyway, you know.
Because it'll be moving.
Right, exactly. So, and by the way, you know, I know that these things are helpful to some people, and if you have friends who have cats or dogs who could use some of the information that I'm sharing, you're very welcome to
Send to Tony if you can, and he will try to.
Yeah, right. Well, I don't know. Let's see.
Or you want to hand me a feeder?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay.
And that to me, because I do not want you gentlemen competing. I use the term gentleman loosely. So anyway, you can get this Facebook Live every week and my media blog, thank you for the hearts, in your email box every Tuesday morning. Just subscribe. Just go to my website, which is drjeffnickel.com. Oh, Ann Manners is here. Yes, Ann has a very interesting situation. Anyway, my email, my website, drjeffnicol.com. Dr. Jeff Nickel, no S on my name. If you go to the bottom of the homepage, you can subscribe. There's no charge. And when you do, you just put your email address. And when you do, I will send you,
This further back.
okay, at no charge, my pet first aid and CPR guide for home use, which is worth printing out and keeping handy just in case. So, what did you do? Did he knock it on the floor? He knocked the whole thing on the floor. These guys are, well, they're animals. What can I tell you? So, so anyway, let me talk to you a little bit about a problem that we see in the veterinary clinic quite commonly. Well, with cats and dogs. Here we go. Here you go, Tony. There's some more treats for you. There we go. It's not like one cat is good and the other one's bad. They're both kind of imperfect, but they're very well loved. So this is a research study done on cats with fear when they come to the veterinary clinic. And one recent research project showed that cats and dogs, between the two of those species, 78% of them show some signs of fear and anxiety when they come to the veterinary clinic, even if it's something quite routine. Some of these indicators are pretty mild, but nobody's enjoying that. And some of these pets at the other end of the spectrum are so freaked out. In fact, one of the biggest reasons that a minority of cat parents bring their cats to the veterinarian for medical treatment, for routine exams, even vaccinations and dental cleanings, way too few of them are coming because the cats are so darn nervous. What I found, for example, with Tony, when I need to bring him in, he used to cry in the carrier on the way in. Well, I cover it with a towel now so he doesn't have to see out, and he's quiet and much more relaxed. Something else that I do for my cats, and I recommend this to a lot of people, this is a prescription medication, and it is called Gabapentin. And I'll show it here so you can write down the name if you like to. You cannot get this over the counter, but your veterinarian probably has it on the pharmacy shelf, and if not, can prescribe it from any pharmacy. It's very inexpensive, and it's about as safe a medication as has ever been invented. And it is used in actually a lot of different situations. We use it very often as an add-on anti-anxiety medication in serious anxiety cases for cats and dogs. It can be helpful as an add-on for pain management. The dermatology people have been using gabapentin as an add-on to help with itching. And it's been used as an add-on in epilepsy cases where we're having just a little bit of trouble getting our arms around those things. So it's got a lot of uses, and it's really safe. Well, the 100 milligram strength comes in a capsule, and the capsules are very easy to pull apart, and the medication inside is like a powder consistency. It's not a lot of it in a little 100 milligram capsule. Well, you can add that to a little bit of cat food. Typically we've been doing it an hour, but this study showed that, and the study they did, they gave it to the cats 90 minutes ahead of the veterinary exam, but they found after that 2 hours is better. Well, these cats are a lot more comfortable. Now, they probably shouldn't be operating heavy machinery while they're taking it, but they're so much better. In fact, some cats who have had a history of being fear aggressive in the veterinary clinic, to the extent that they really can't be handled, well, they're pussy cats when they get there. So this stuff is pretty darn good. So let me read you a little bit of this. I think you'll find this fascinating. This was a study published in 2017 in the Journal of the American Veterinary Medical Association. 20 healthy pet cats ranged in age from 1 year to 16. And this stuff is safe enough that we really give it to any age cat. And they had a history of stress. Every single one of them had a history of stress in the veterinary clinic, and they were brought to 2 veterinary visits 1 week apart. Okay? So the cats were randomly assigned to receive either 100 milligrams of gabapentin, this strength right here, or a placebo capsule before the first visit. The capsules were given 90 minutes before they left home, and that's important because the car ride is stressful. So it's not just 90 minutes before you arrive at the veterinary clinic, it's 90 minutes before you load them into the carrier and bring them in. Okay, and then the treatment was reversed for the second visit. So these cats served as their own controls. One visit they had the gabapentin on board, and the other visit they had just the placebo. And the value of that, of course, is that the cat parents, whichever visit it was, they had no idea whether it's placebo this time or the gabapentin this time. And the veterinary staff didn't know either. And so this is called a double-blind study. And that's important because you can get, research error because people have expectations and that colors their judgment. Okay, so once they arrived at the veterinary hospital, each cat was examined and had his or her blood pressure measured, which is not uncomfortable for cats. It's very similar to humans, although we actually do it on their tail, not on their limb. But it's not uncomfortable. But they can be kind of fussy, and it can be stressful, which of course can raise their blood pressure and give us an erroneous result, so it can be hard to use diagnostically. So a calm cat is a very good thing for measuring blood pressure. So the cat parents also rated their cats' stress scores during the trip to the hospital as well as during the exam. The veterinarians rated the cat's compliance with the process. Okay, here's what they found. Cat parents gave significantly lower stress scores, that means less stress, during transportation and examinations to the cats who received gabapentin. Veterinarians rated the cats treated with gabapentin as significantly more compliant. That's a word we use, like if they work with us, they're compliant. If they fight with us, they're not. Okay, for 20% of the cats, examination was possible only when they were medicated with gabapentin. So of these cats, 20% of them were in that category I mentioned where, boy, without something, you can't do anything. That's how severely stressed they are. And besides the fact that we can't practice medicine on a cat who, well, isn't compliant, isn't playing the game with us, how much fun is that for the cat? What quality of life is that for the cat? And not to mention their misery when we try to examine a really scared cat. Well, they have a shorter life. Their medical issues are not diagnosed early and treated because they're not coming in, because their cat parents are saying too much stress. What everybody's not realizing is that we can short-circuit this problem and give these cats the medical treatment and diagnostic and preventive care that they need. So, sedation was a commonly reported side effect, particularly in smaller cats. But again, gabapentin is so safe. If we get a cat who's a little bit loopy, it's okay. They can just go home and go to bed. Okay? And the cat parents reported the peak effect of the medication actually was 2 to 3 hours after it was administered, suggesting that dosing the cats 90 minutes in advance may have been less than optimal, as they put it. So, I always give you a conclusion on this. Overall, the present study yielded good evidence that oral administration of 100 milligrams of gabapentin to cats 90 minutes, or probably better, 2 to 3 hours, prior to transporting them to the veterinary hospital, led to a significant reduction in stress-related behaviors during transportation and examination. Gabapentin administration also decreased aggression and increased compliance of cats during the medical exam. So, your veterinarian may not be aware of this kind of stuff. I mean, there aren't very many residency-trained veterinary behaviorists around, and we're the ones who, it's our job to try to share this information. But many general practitioners who I work with are aware of this and use this. So if your cat is too scared to go in, don't let mouth pain because of neglected tartar on the teeth, skin disease, itching, discharge from the eyes like Gaston had when he was a baby. Don't let that stuff stand in the way of getting the cat the care that it needs. And I have a question. I just saw it came up here. Okay, Isabella. In terms of escape routes, I have found that some cats, particularly those who are confined indoors, respond rather well to shelves, climbing frames, etc. on higher levels. It requires some adjustment and effort on the part of the owner, but maybe a useful tip for city dwellers. Well, thank you for that, Isabella, because that's what's coming up on my little cheat notes I keep next to my iPhone camera here, is to explain how to help these cats feel better at home when they've got, a fear problem, regardless of its cause. So thank you for lending that to this whole thing. So, cats, unlike dogs, and as you can tell, neither of my cats are on my table right now because, well, the food's not there. Actually, I've got one piece of food. Does anybody want this? Nobody wants it. All right. You guys are, they have to be paid, right? So, anybody with a cat, I don't care whether you have just one cat or more, or whether your cat is frightened or just a relaxed, cool customer. Either way, cats need time alone. Yeah, they certainly have social interactions and bonding with their people, and sometimes with other pets, although Gaston and Tony aren't really bonded to each other. But they need to get away from it all. So hide boxes, like Isabella mentioned, at various heights in different rooms. And you could go the cheap way with a cardboard box if you want. I did a home visit once, very wealthy folks, and they had wonderful, beautiful furniture and shelving and bookcases and cabinets that were clearly custom made, very fine wood, definitely custom work, okay? And they had built into the place hide boxes that I would never have known were there until they started pointing them out. What's really important about hide boxes is they don't have to look terrible, but the openings where the cat goes in should not be out into the room where people, other cats, whoever can see them in there. They need to be to the side, or if they're on a shelf and the hide box is mounted a few inches away from the wall, the cat can access the hide box by going behind it and getting in that way. These cats need to have privacy, and they need to know nobody's watching them. So if you have a really scared cat who hides under the bed, what you don't do is lean under there and look at the cat. It scares the heck out of them, especially because they're indoors and they don't have an escape. And so if you have scared cats, largely you need to ignore them. You can drop food on the floor. In fact, if you don't feed them as much as they need from a bowl, then when you're sitting very quietly and you're the only person in the room, then you can drop a little bit of food. And if it's too close to you for the cat, drop it a little further away. Not a lot of active throwing motions, because very often these scared cats, a human voice, sometimes even a very soft voice, and quick motions can be real fear triggers. And so sometimes you have to roll these treats very, very slowly. And if the cat is somewhat food motivated, I'm certainly not suggesting anybody starve their cat, but just so they have an incentive to be brave enough to come a little closer. Now, if you have a cat who missed out on a lot of the early socialization that they really need that between 2 and 7 weeks, and the cat missed out on that stuff, some of these cats are so scared that you're not going to make a lot of progress. But you can still be kind, and you can still try to walk a mile in that cat's shoes by, I have a little glass of water on the floor, and Tony likes to drink out of my water. Yeah, and I made it a point to only put a little bit of water in this glass so he couldn't get his face all the way in there, but he's trying anyway, steal my water. Anyway, so these cats need a whole lot of patience. So give them space, give them time, give them clean litter pans, and if it has to go under the bed, then do that. And if that cat needs to go to the veterinarian, you can mix the contents of a capsule of 100 milligram gabapentin in a small amount of food, canned food. And if the cat hasn't had access to food in a while, they'll be motivated to eat it, and you're much more likely to gradually get a hold of that cat and get it in a carrier, cover the carrier, and cover cat carriers from underneath like this, not from the handle. Because when you do it from the handle, the darn thing tends to swing, scares them even more. Against your chest, much more stable. And your veterinary staff really should be doing the same thing. So give these cats space. Now, some people have dogs or other cats who can be, frankly, kind of mean to a scared cat, can treat it like a rodent, particularly other cats who are, pretty bold and assertive. But if your cats have lots of tall climbing trees and perches located against windows, tall all the way to the ceiling, if you go to my website, drjeffnickel.com, and go to pet behavior topics, go to that tab at the top, and then click on cat behaviors, you'll see feline environmental enrichments. And there's some great information there on hide boxes and cat trees. There's a cat tree you can get. It's a fake tree, but it looks just like a tree. And you locate it against a window. It's got platforms in there, and they can hide out in there and feel like they're outside. So these kinds of tall hiding and perching areas, really, really important. So if you have a cat who's chasing another cat in your home, or a dog who's bullying the cat, do not yell and reprimand. Thank you for that heart. Do not do that, and I'm telling you why. Number one, it doesn't help. Dogs in particular, when you give them any kind of response, they feel like their behavior was just validated, really. Now, cats don't necessarily take that away, although they do respond to a response from their person. But when you use a reprimanding tone, it ratchets up the intensity and the agitation of everybody, the scared cat and the other pet who's scaring it, which might even be a child. And now everybody comes away with a more intense aversion to the context, like these creatures being together. Well, we need to lower the temperature, as we say, right? So we don't reprimand, we don't yell. We get everybody to back away. And I'm telling you that, children, they're naturally inquisitive. If there's a pet hiding out, many of them want to be helpful. They're crawling under the bed, scaring.
Bella's made a comment.
Oh, is it Bella?
About what you've done, and
Oh.
Monica says hi.
Oh, and Monica. All right, let me see if I can find these. There's Monica. Hi, Monica. Monica with the Hello Kitty little symbol there, which I like a lot. Oh, and Joe. Joe, I haven't talked to you in a long time. I hope you're doing fine. Some.
Bella's comment.
Let's see here. Did she put another comment in there, Carolyn?
About the escape routes?
Yeah, I think I already addressed that. Anyway, but thank you, though. So, point I was making, though, is that children, it's a great opportunity to teach them to be kind and to say, well, we've all been scared from time to time, sometimes with good reason. Somebody's not treating us well. And what we really need is a supportive, reliable person who we can be with and feel better. Somebody who's safe. And you can be that for this scared cat. And so if you had a child who wanted to do something for this cat, and some kids, sometimes they can do things that are frankly mean. Well, they need to learn, and harsh punishment and reprimands for the child, that doesn't help either. Now, I don't have a degree in child psychology, but I've raised 2 children, and I've been around a lot of kids who've come in with their families, and I've talked to a lot of kids. I've been a scoutmaster. Again, that doesn't make me an expert, but I've done some study on this stuff, and I can firmly explain that when you have a child and make it clear to them that, look, this pet is scared just like you've been from time to time. So let's be that secure, kind, safe presence, and you can sit near that bed where the cat's hiding or whatever, not too close, and read to that cat and drop a little bit of food. Really. And then just leave. And know that you've done something helpful and you've brought out the best. And by the way, something that you can notice that cats are starting to feel better when they do things that are normal cat behavior. And it's not just eating and drinking and maybe a little purring, but when cats come along, if you have a cat, I know you've seen this, they come along and they take their head, and Tony's good at this. Oh, there he's over there with Carolyn. And he comes up, he might be your hand or your arm, or maybe even a piece of furniture, and he kind of rubs his head against it. Sometimes he's sharing not just the scent, but the pheromones on the side of his face from those glands that secrete those. Well, there's a name for that, by the way. Well, there's Tony. And so, Tony, are you going to do this for us? Well, anyway, there's a name for that behavior, and I just learned what it is. And it's called bunting. Like when a batter is up at the plate and, the pitcher throws the ball and he bunts with the bat. Anyway, when cats do that with their head, it's called bunting. So that's a little bit of cat behavior vocabulary for you. Even somebody with my training, they come up with new words. So I thought you might find that interesting. So what if you have a cat, there's Tony T. What if you have a cat at home that's kind of scared? There are supplements that you can use that are shown, there's robust research to show that they can lower anxiety. Now, they're not highly potent because they're not medications. And somebody else just showed up here. Whoops, there we go. And manners. I need to work on my human behavior with Charlotte and Ella. Those are cats. Let's start again. Anne's cats. Charlotte is her older cat. And Charlotte, how old is Charlotte, Carolyn? 6? Something. She's 8. Time flies, doesn't it? But Ella is the new kitten who was born to a feral mother in the yard. Anne lives in Tulsa. And especially when they're disagreeing, it's hard not to reprimand. It is, Anne, because that's the way we think. You know, we have somebody we know, especially a child, and acts on you. You say, will you stop that? Well, they can get that. Although we all know that one can purchase the most realistic cat trees in the world, but cats will always prefer the one sofa and cashmere blanket, leather handbag. We explicitly told them to stay away from that cat tree, most likely remain immaculate. Ha ha. You know, let me digress and address that for you, Isabella. One of the best things you can give a cat to scratch on is a fireplace log, really, because they do that in the wild. And these little cat scratchers on an angle, and the ones that have like a cross-sectional cut of cardboard, those can be helpful. But we just got a couple of nice leather sofas in our house. And of course these guys thought, oh, this is great fun, you know. Well, you can buy this double sticky tape that is just unfun. And Carolyn, what was the name of that stuff we just got recently?
I don't remember.
Okay, we don't remember.
Some products for leather and other.
Yeah, there's some that are meant for fabric furniture. You kind of screw it in so it stays, but we're not going to do that with leather. But this stuff is a double sticky kind of thing, and I would really encourage that. So here's some things you can do if you have cats who are nervous. And then I'm going to show you one more thing that is really cool. But here's some things you can get without a prescription. In fact, all the things I'm going to show you, you can get without a prescription. This is called Angstine, and this is L-theanine. L-theanine is a plant amino acid that is found naturally in green tea. Now, you could give green tea to your cats, but they'd have to drink a lot. But this is a chewable tablet. You can give it to cats or dogs, and you can get this on the internet. You do not need a prescription. It's twice a day, and it's chewable. They like that, okay? Let me show you something else. Is that better, or is this one better? This is called Zilkeen, Z-Y-L-K-E-N-E. Comes in a few strengths. This one is for cats and small dogs, 75 milligrams. You see the way they have, in the picture, the capsule is opened and the powder is coming out. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. Anyway, you can just give the pill to the cat, or you can put this on their food. But they like it. This stuff has what's called alpha-casazepine in it, and it is a hydrolyzed milk protein. Again, non-prescription. You can get it on the internet. And this, in ways somewhat similar to benzodiazepines like Xanax and Valium. This is not a potent drug at all, but it is certainly something that reduces anxiety. And here's something else you can plug in all the time. This is called Feel Away. This is a synthetic analog of a naturally occurring pheromone. And you plug this in, it looks like a room freshener. You see that? A little refill with a liquid in it lasts about 30 days. And this stuff is helpful. None of this stuff by itself will hit the home run, but it all helps. And here's the other thing I wanted to mention to you. This is called the Calmer Canine. And you're thinking, aren't we talking about cats? And does that picture look like a cat to you? Well, actually, it's not a cat. And this is not approved FDA for cats. But we've used it for a lot of cats. And it looks like this. Oops, I just dropped a cat toy. There we go. And Miss America, you're over there now. You want to come back over here? Come on back up, honey. That's a big girl. Yeah, I did. So, yeah, there we go. So this is the Calmer Canine. And you can use this on dogs with this little fabric vest that the company will provide you. And it's got this little patch of Velcro here, and you stick it on the little part that goes around behind the dog's head, and it looks like this, okay? Twice daily treatments, 15 minutes each. There is no sensation. It is completely safe, but it has been used on cats quite successfully, cats with anxiety. Now, they don't tolerate the little vest, and they don't make them small enough for cats. And they have one for cats that's, for small dogs, that's smaller than this. So you can have the cat in your lap, and you can hold this halo-shaped device. Puts out a targeted pulse electromagnetic field that targets the amygdala, the fear center of the cat or the dog. Well, with cats, what they found is, and the company called Assisi Animal Health, like St. Francis of Assisi. Here's St. Francis. Say hello. Okay. Anyway, they have something called the Loop Lounge. It's actually meant for another device. But it's very much like a soft cat carrier. And you let the cat camp out in there, and you put the Calmer Canine on top. Twice daily, 15-minute treatments. It shuts itself off. You have to do this for a treatment course of about 4 to 6 weeks. But it has made a difference with many anxious and fearful cats. And you don't need a prescription for the Calmer Canine either. Go to the website. You can just Google Calmer Canine, but the website is Calmer, C-A-L-M-E-R, the letter K, the number 9.com, calmercanine.com, and you can order this thing. And in fact, you know, you could say, look, can I use Angstitane and can I use Zilkeen at the same time together? Yes, you can. And you can certainly plug in the Feel-Away diffuser, and you can use the Calmer Canine. All of that stuff. And in fact, your veterinarian can prescribe gabapentin, which can be given twice a day. Now, you wouldn't use a whole 100 milligrams. Typically, what we do is, if we're going to prescribe that, then we have people use the 100 milligram capsules, because that's the smallest strength, and then open those capsules onto a flat surface, and then you get a single-edged razor blade, and you approximate quarters, and then you can mix a little bit of, you know, about a quarter of it, which would be roughly 25 milligrams, and a little ball of canned food or a pill pocket, that kind of stuff. And you can give that twice daily to cats, and that can reduce anxiety and fear. So, you know, these cats who are so scared that they're hiding out, or they react to loud noises or to quick movements, we can help them feel better. And, you know, that's back to the empathy thing. How would any of us feel living a life of frequent or almost continual fear? Well, you know, modern medicine can do that. Oh, Monica, you have used the Assisi loop and used it for stomatitis. Yeah, the Assisi loop, now that's a different beast than the Calmer Canine, made by Assisi. And the Assisi loop is an anti-inflammatory device. And these cats, I'm really glad you've used it for the stomatitis. This is an inflammation, frankly, some of them really severe, of the gums, back especially in the corners where the lower gum meets the upper gum behind the teeth. And these cats can have a lot of pain and a whole lot of trouble eating. And there are treatments for it, and that's a different discussion. But you put that cat in the loop lounge, and then put the Assisi loop on top of it, or you can hold that cat in your lap and hold the Assisi loop, which looks a lot like the Calmer Canine. It's different. It's got a different waveform to it, but it's also a pulse electromagnetic field device. And I'm delighted that helped. That is such frankly, a horrible disease of cats. You know, it's one of those things where it's not going to kill the cat, but sometimes the cat itself might wish it did, you know. It's one of those things. And there's a lot. Swipe left to reveal comments. Okay, there we go. It actually told me what to do, Carolyn. Okay, thank you. Although we all know you can purchase the most realistic. Okay, let's see. Well, a lot of people are making comments and asking questions. I'm so glad for that. I'm so happy that people are contributing to this, because it's, you know, oftentimes if you have a question, you're not the only one who has that question. Very true, the logs work well, but they work even better if you don't tell the cat it's for them. Yeah, that's about right. And, you know, like on a nice piece of furniture, if they like to go up and scratch the sides of the furniture, you can hang a piece of old carpet on the thing. You know, it's the angle of it, it's the texture, and different cats sometimes have different, you know, different preferences. You know, that's sort of what we have to do with our cats. You know, punishment, reprimands, forget it. This scratching issue is completely normal behavior. They need to split their claws. They don't shorten them when they scratch. They split them side to side, and it keeps them sharp and narrow, because they're for killing. Cats are obligate predators. They do not eat salad. They don't raise potatoes in a garden. They eat other creatures. That is the only way they're really meant to survive. And so when we keep them as pets without realizing it, we actually take away some of the necessary parts of being a cat. And we need to put a lot of that stuff back in as much as we can. You know, so back to the tall climbing, perching areas, the hiding areas. Many times people have a cat who's scared. Well, that cat could feel a lot better if it could do stuff that cats are genetically programmed to do, like climb and hide and sharpen their claws on the right thing. So, yeah, they're a work in progress, and you have to keep working with it. So I guess, in conclusion, thank you again. Oh, Joanna, thank you for being here. I'm delighted to see you too. Take the time with your pets to build a foundation of trust and choice and freedom, because dogs and cats, just like people, can get obstinate if their leader only wants their needs met. Because our pets can learn anytime in a relationship that they can trust us not to intimidate them. And it's good practice, isn't it? We can practice our empathy. And if we make mistakes, and we all do, I don't know anybody who forgives better than cats and dogs. They always give us a second chance. And so my life and everybody in my families has been a lot better because we all love pets and we always have them. And we do some pretty darn important stuff for us. And I think we do some important things for them too. So thank you so much for being here with me. Next week, I have a continuing education webinar that I'm attending at 6 o'clock, which is the time I typically do these. So I'm planning next week's Facebook Live, thank you for that heart, at 7:30, and I hope that time works out for people, so I'll send a notice out. So thank you again for being here. Stay safe.